Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Thursday morning to you all. Hope you folks are doing well out there this morning and having a fantastic start to your day and a great week out there so far. Here to bring you the latest on what's going to happen weather-wise for your Thursday. We'll speak on that, bring you the details, a little bit of moisture out west, a lot of moisture riding up the I-95 corridor in the eastern U.S., middle of the country, pretty quiet, but we'll give you all the details on that information to keep you aware of over the next 24 hours of weather. After we do that, we'll have a very small segment speaking on some rain switching to some heavy snow across areas like Maine, Atlantic Canada. So we'll speak a little bit on that. Quick moving system in the Great Lakes region for this weekend into the Northeast could bring a little bit of snow, light accumulations, but I will talk a little on that also. But a good segment of this video is going to be speaking on what's going to happen as we get to the tail end of this weekend into early next week, maybe all the way through midway next week. And we do have another significant storm system. And I do say significant because I do think it's going to bring a multi-day threat of severe weather. There will likely be a winter weather side to this too, but I don't think the winter weather side of this will be as significant as what we just saw a few days ago. But I do think there will be one. So we'll speak on that also. But like I said, multi-day severe weather threat, maybe beginning as early as Sunday, lasting all the way to maybe as far out as Wednesday. So I think the days in between that period could be the more high-end days. But we need to figure this out. Is this going to be an outbreak, a significant threat? We will obviously fine-tune all this information as we get a little bit closer. So if you're tuning in and just want to hear about that, everything is time-stamped out well. Just skip right to that. Don't blame you one bit. So with that being said, if you folks have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. And if anybody has anything that I can pray about or pray over, as always, please put those in the comments below so I can pray over it and so others can do so too. So let's get rolling here. A lot of rain across the I-95 corridor, basically just grinding up against the eastern seaboard here. I mean, it's not very far inland, the mainland. We got some heavy rain pretty much from Florida, North Florida, even some rain down here in southern Florida, all the way up here into Atlantic Canada. We do have some light snows kind of drifting across Lake Superior into the UP of Michigan. It does show some snow showing up here in northern Illinois. I'm not quite sure if that's actually hitting the ground, though. I would argue that it probably isn't, but you guys would have to let me know if you're tuning in from that area. We do just have waves of moisture scattered about across the western U.S. Higher elevation snow, lower elevation rain. I swear, I think that's the most said phrase I've said over the last few months over any phrase altogether. But the middle of the country is pretty quiet. That'll change over the next few days for sure. Storm Prediction Center, no risk of severe weather today. I mean, you never can rule out a risk, but as of now, there's no marginal risk, just a general risk of thunderstorms out there where you see the light green and up against the eastern Carolina areas. And then the peninsula of Florida does have that general risk of thunderstorms today. Nothing severe, though, expected. Can't rule it out, though. Excessive rainfall outlook. The only area we need to watch out for is northeast North Carolina and around, extreme southeast Virginia, the Norfolk area, Virginia Beach. You have a slight risk of rainfall exceeding flash flood guidance, which means you have a 15% risk of that. The marginal risk is a 5% risk of the same criteria. So be aware of any kind of flooding out there. Watches, warnings, and advisories. It doesn't look super active out there. Hanging on to winter storm warnings here in the Keenewa, I think it's pronounced Keenewa Peninsula. Houghton, I think you still have winter storm warnings up, but I don't think they will last very long. I think these will get dropped here in the coming hours. Flood watches are up for eastern North Carolina, southeast Virginia for the heavy rain that will continue in these areas. Same thing up here. Flood watches up for the downeast areas of Maine to southern Maine, southeast New Hampshire, eastern Mass, all of Rhode Island, and like one county in Connecticut. Winter weather advisories for a few areas out west. Winter storm warnings for sections of the Sierra Nevada, and we do have some wind advisories up for the southwest with a system that's about to move in. You might get some high wind warnings that gets issued and high wind watches over the next 12 to 24 hours from another system that's going to move in. It's going to bring all our weather over this weekend into early next week. But speaking of the southeast, a lot of rain will continue just to move over some of the same areas, stalled frontal boundary, but I would say today the front certainly progresses a lot more than yesterday. Weird day across the Carolinas yesterday, especially here locally, here in the Columbia region. We had a temperature gradient right over the city, where if you went to the western sections of the city, it was like in the 50s. But if you went to the eastern sections of the city, it was like in the upper 60s and 70s. So we typically don't get any kind of cool, tight temperature gradient kind of weather like that. So I thought it was very interesting yesterday. But most of this weather, by the time we get this afternoon, will be on off the coast of the southeastern U.S. We'll continue to deal with a little bit of rain in the Outer Banks. But I think by the time we get into later tonight, we're pretty much done. And I think finally we will have ourselves a nice Friday tomorrow across the southeast, after having, I believe, multiple Fridays in a row for a lot of areas that's had some sort of weather. Whether it's been severe weather, rain, and I think tomorrow is going to be nice for a good Friday, which is good. I'll be out and about planting some flowers, and I have the day off, so really looking forward to a really awesome day tomorrow. So yeah, nice Friday expected. But the rainfall, I have to get through this first. Rainfall between now and the next 24 hours. Another couple inches of rain is possible in eastern North Carolina up into the Delmarva region. The closer you are tucked in closer to the actual coast, the Atlantic Ocean, the more rain you're going to get. But certainly appreciable rainfall totals from this. Washout conditions in eastern North Carolina, eastern Virginia, up into the Delmarva region today. We get up into the northeast. It's kind of the same similar setup. Stalled front will continue just to bring a fire hose of moisture through the Delmarva, through New Jersey, New York City, Long Island, southern New England, all of New England, except inland portions, all the way up into Maine. This is going to be all rain for Maine, at least for today. And we'll continue to see the pockets of yellow. That's where heavier rain is falling. Maybe if you get way, way up there in higher elevations, this could be mixing with some wintry precipitation. But even rain all the way up into New Brunswick. But then you start to see later tonight a little bit of snow mix again. Northern New Hampshire, extreme western Maine. And we continue to move this forward all the way into the wee hours of the morning tomorrow morning. Look at this low right here. This is some really heavy rain in southeast Mass, areas of Rhode Island. And by the time we are starting to get into tomorrow morning, we're starting to mix with some snow. We'll speak more on this here in a second. We'll have another segment up for you folks tuning in from the Northeast. But you're even trying to switch to a little bit of snow around Boston tomorrow morning. Some short-range model guidance has been kind of everywhere, but kind of something you need to pay attention to. Could switch to some wet snow around Boston to end your last Friday of March. So we'll see what happens with this, but we'll speak more on this here in a second. But rainfall between now and the next 48 hours, some of this could be a little snow, and we'll speak on that here in a second. But 1 to 2 inches of rain up the I-95 corridor. Boston could get 2 to 3 inches of rain. Just another washout. It really is. Just you guys keep getting system after system up here in the Northeast for sure. So a lot of rain is going to get into New Brunswick also. South Central U.S., it's quiet weather today. Nice day, warm day getting into this afternoon. Not really a drop or flake or anything of anything. And then we get into overnight tonight. We take it all the way into Friday morning. Start to see a weaker system starting to move into the plains. Snow is beginning to fly around here in northwest Colorado up into Wyoming. But the immediate South Central U.S., quiet day today over the next 24 hours. Nothing going on at all. The north central U.S., outside of some snow showers that could drift into maybe the central to eastern UP and Michigan, it's pretty quiet. This could drop a dusting, maybe an inch of snow. We start to get into the overnight hours. Some of these could more so make it into the eastern UP. And then we see a little bit of moisture in the northern plains. We'll speak on that here in a second. And then this takes us all the way out to about Friday afternoon. A little bit of moisture up here near International Falls and especially northwestern sections of Minnesota tomorrow afternoon. But snowfall between now and the next 24 hours. Like I said, a dusting amount as possible here in the eastern UP. A little bit more snow over here in the western UP. But nothing substantial whatsoever. Now, the northern plains, a little bit of energy flying up. Yellowstone National Park region and northwest of Wyoming, we'll start to see a little bit of snow. Bighorn Mountain, some snow. Central Montana, some moisture, heavier moisture. Some of this could be heavy snow, burst of heavy snow, but no huge system by any means, guys. We get into the overnight hours. This is, around midnight, a couple hours after. Some moisture starts to show up in the form, maybe some freezing rain up here in central North Dakota, some snow could make its way through northern and northeastern Montana. So we'll need to watch out for like a glazing of ice up here in the northern North Dakota region, and then could switch to some snow in the northern counties of North Dakota as we're waking up for our Friday morning. Snow flying around in southern Wyoming, northeastern Utah, northwestern Colorado. And then this continues to drift through, and then we start to get more of just a scattered convective feed into this region. Snowfall between now and the next 48 hours. A couple inches of snow is possible in northern North Dakota, and of course more in the higher elevations of the northern Rockies. But we do have the potential for a glazing of ice. It's even showing up in northern South Dakota, even though it didn't really show any precipitation on the HRRR model. But going for a few 100ths of an inch of ice in the Dakotas, and this pink area right here, some darker pinks indicate maybe 1/10 of an inch of ice, so be aware of that. Western U.S., just scattered moisture throughout the day, the morning today, the night today. The night today. Sorry, guys. I'm definitely not on my A game this morning. Had some troubles waking up this morning. Did not want to wake up. The bed was kicking my butt, so a little bit groggy this morning. But you continue to get into this afternoon. Some scattered snows, lower elevation rain. It'll just be kind of a day from Medford, Eugene, Portland, up to Seattle, where you'll just kind of get some scattered rain showers. Maybe some rumbles of thunder is possible with it. Some snows across the northern Rockies. Maybe a more put together area of moisture down here in kind of the central Rockies. Kind of spins around as a low tries to develop. And then all eyes go to this system. All right, this thing kind of drifts down, grinds down the California coastline, starts to bring a lot of heavy moisture inland also into California. And this will set the stage for a very rainy morning and eventually day and night for your Friday into Friday nights in California. Could run a risk of some flooding rains too. I don't think it'll be anything substantial, but this is a pretty strong low pressure. And eventually this rain will make it all the way into Southern California. We'll speak more on this here in a second. Really just focusing in on today into tomorrow morning now. But this is precipitation expected throughout the next 24 hours. Some of this is snow, some of this is rain. And then we look at the snow here. Certainly the higher elevations could get several inches of snow in general. I think the common theme is anywhere from 6 to 12 inches of snow, depending on your elevation. But of course, you got to stay tuned to your local people for that. I wish I had the time to pull up all these snowfall graphics every single day in the winter and spring and fall. But man, these videos would go on and on and on if I did that. But definitely stay tuned to your local people in the northern and central Rockies, Sierra Nevada, and the Cascades. But temperatures today, warmer in general. You'll start to get some snow melt today between the rain and just the warmer temperatures. 60s in the Carolinas, the deep south, 60s and 70s, south central U.S., 70s, even some 80s. 70s making their way all the way up into potentially all the way into like southwestern South Dakota. Just the 40s in the northeast in general, a little bit cooler in the Ohio Valley compared to maybe sections of the Midwest today. But temperatures out west, it's warming up in the southwest. Nice day, 80s, depending on where you are. Maybe a little bit cooler. But then once you're starting to get to the Pacific Northwest, you're certainly start to cool down a little bit more just because you have moisture and cloud cover. But look at this kind of area of warm air surging all the way up into Montana today before a little bit more cool air kind of oozes in. But warming all the way into the 60s into areas of eastern Montana. So the rest of this system will continue to kind of surge into Atlantic Canada, New Brunswick, areas of Quebec, Nova Scotia, all these regions right into here. So we'll start this off kind of, let's just move into Friday morning. You notice you're getting pockets of freezing rain up here in the pink, but you see the blue here, starting to switch to some snow in Maine. And then as this low pressure really cranks up, this is bringing some heavy rain, gusty winds into Nova Scotia. I don't think it's anything too crazy, anything you guys can't handle, but certainly a pretty stout low pressure running right into Nova Scotia. But as you can tell, this starts to switch to some heavy snow in central and eastern Maine, and also in western New Brunswick. And it could pile up for a several hour period pretty quick. And this continues, continues to spin up here in eastern Canada, and then it heads on out. So I think that this will have an opportunity to switch to snow sometime Friday evening, and then Friday night, maybe all the way into our Saturday morning, could be dealing with some snow in areas of Maine and New Brunswick. So how much snow could we expect from this? Well, this is just Maine. Between now and the duration of this event, several inches of wet snow is possible. Someone could squeeze in maybe 10 inches of snow depending on your elevation and just where you're at. But I'm kind of surprised at how much snow they're going for kind of western Maine. But going for several inches of wet snow, this will certainly be a wet snow for sure. So late season snow continues to fall and add up here in Maine, where you guys were. I believe y'all were below average as far as snowfall totals for the year, but you're definitely making up for lost time now. Now this takes us up here to Quebec and New Brunswick, and this is just a blend of all models. This is in centimeters, but 5 to 10 centimeters of snow is possible up here in northwestern New Brunswick, and certainly more once you get into Quebec, where you could get maybe half a foot of snow. 15 to 25 centimeters of snow in this little stripe right into here. Of course, more substantial event once you get further north. And maybe a dusting of snow in some of these areas as this cold air tries to wrap in behind this system, catch up with some moisture down here in the Nova Scotia. Maybe a half a centimeter of snow, just maybe a dusting at most out here with this. So I do want to mention the Great Lakes region. As we're getting into Friday, tomorrow midday, nothing really going on, but we start to move into our Saturday morning. Quick moving weak low pressure moves in, a little bit of cold air concentrated just up here in the northern terrain of the country. A little bit of ice is possible in central to north central Wisconsin. Stripe of snow in northern Wisconsin, a little bit of snow into the UP, and then the upper lower Michigan regions. This will be all rain in the Ohio Valley down here in lower Michigan. And then this could bring some snow into southern Ontario, sections of Quebec. And then this could bring a little bit of snow into Sunday morning for your Easter morning. Could wake up to light snow flying around the interior northeast. So it's a wild way to start your Easter morning, but happens. It's definitely not super uncommon by any means. And then here comes moisture off our next system. So a lot of eyes are on this. All right, we're going to start this off Friday morning. I've already kind of mentioned this a little bit. As we were starting to get into Friday evening, Friday afternoon, a lot of moisture begins to take over really California. You got this spinning cyclone off the coast of California. This is bringing a lot of snow for the Sierra Nevada, and this starts to bring a lot of rain down the central and southern California coastline. So waking up to maybe washout conditions around LA, San Diego Saturday morning, still raining in San Francisco. And then we start to get into our Saturday evening. Higher elevation snow continues to fall. This begins to bring some moisture into like Phoenix, certainly moisture into Salt Lake City. I think it's going to bring an area of moisture probably sometime Saturday into Saturday night into Las Vegas. Definitely a soggy at least start to your weekend. Rain will kind of linger around down here into your Easter Sunday down here for, most of California. Just a lot of moisture in the central, southern Rockies, and the southwestern U.S. for your Easter. This is around Easter afternoon, Sunday evening, a lot of moisture. And it takes really all the way until about Monday, April 1st for this to kind of begin to clear out, but you're still dealing with a lot of moisture in the southern Rockies and the southwestern U.S. in the form of lower elevation rain, higher elevation snow. And then by the time we get into our Tuesday, this finally starts to get on out of here. But this is going to bring a lot of weather for a few days, especially in the southwestern section of the country. And rainfall just between now and Saturday evening, going for almost an inch in San Diego. 8 to 9 tenths of an inch of rain in San Diego, over an inch in LA, anywhere from a half an inch to an inch of rain. And San Francisco. A lot of this is going to be snow that lift up against the Sierra Nevada, squeezing out all the moisture. So a lot of this is snow, even some rain into the valley regions. So definitely more than this is actually going to fall. This is just between now and Saturday evening. But of course, the snow is going to add up in the Sierra Nevada. Nothing too crazy, but it's still that time of the year where you continue to get snow up here in the Sierra Nevada. Man, I can't talk this morning. The Sierra Nevada, you continue to get the snow adding up here for sure. So kind of a broad look at the snow from the European ensemble. Certainly going to be adding up the snow across the Rockies, Sierra Nevada, Cascades. I don't see any kind of blockbuster totals from this. but certainly the snow will continue to add up depending on your elevation. So this is when this system can get dicey. So as we're starting to get into Sunday morning, a little bit of moisture riding up into Nebraska and the northern plains, north central U.S. Okay, but the meat of this system begins to move in, I would say, April 1st. But I will say, let's back it up a little bit. There could be some severe weather Sunday evening, somewhere around this area right in here. Maybe a dry line setting up. You're not seeing much of anything off this. No real greens showing up down here or over here, but that doesn't mean we're not going to have storms. So we'll kind of fine tune that as we go. I say Sunday will kind of be day one. I just don't think Sunday will be a significant event. We'll see. And then as we start to get into our Monday, we're starting to see the snowy side of this showing up. There's that low pressure surface low feature, which, the Storm Prediction Center discusses this. Hey, we do have some question marks on the upper trough, the upper low. But confidence is increasing enough on the surface feature, surface low, going to be there regardless. And that's what this is, 999 millibar low, cruising across Kansas. Enough cold air, some snow in South Dakota. Maybe there's some snow in western areas of Nebraska also. But this continues, and we continue to make it into our Monday afternoon. Low right in here. Don't focus on all these other lows. There could be two lows, one right here, two kind of surface features, kind of short wave troughs. But in general, with energy flying up here, this is pulling in low-level moisture up here. So this is creating a pretty broad warm sector. And of course, with these lows flying across this region, this is bringing a belt of a favorable mid-level flow right over this area, creating lift. You combine that with the thermodynamics of a lot of moisture getting pulled up, we're going to have a risk of severe weather. Even though you're just seeing blobs of green everywhere, like, Mitch, this doesn't make any sense to me. I'll kind of talk about the ingredients more here in a second. That first low heads on off. Then we have another one, 996 millibar low. This could be actually the thing that really drives this severe weather threat here. Cruising over Missouri, right around Springfield, Missouri. Monday evening, low pressure moving over. And then this could bring a lot of unsettled weather to the Ohio Valley too. All right. And then we start to get into our Tuesday, and we need to watch what I would think needs to be, we need to watch probably more so just west of the Appalachian Mountains into the Tennessee Valley, kind of southern Ohio Valley region, right in here, mid-south, as we have some sort of low feature, maybe multiple lows, but we'll just focus on there being one low right in here, and this is probably going to bring a severe weather threat. And then the northern stream tries to kind of get involved into this, and it gets complicated. It really does. So could bring an inland northeast, inland New England snowstorm also as we get into early to midway next week. So what about the snow side of this? Not much of a signal. Northern Plains does, indicates some accumulating snow in the northern plains, Wyoming, the Dakotas, even Nebraska. But I just don't think that the snow side of this for the central U.S. is going to be substantial. We need to fine-tune this for the Northeast as we get into midway next week. But talking about those severe ingredients, remember I was talking about the low pressures kind of flying, trough digging down here, gets very positively tilted, but low pressure features will be kind of cruising across this region right into here. All right, this is continuing to bring up low-level moisture into this region. We're actually going to see this in motion right now. So we kind of keep this moving. Okay, we're good. This is Sunday afternoon. Look at all this low-level moisture riding all the way up into Missouri. This is dew points into the mid-60s. Ton of low-level moisture into this area. Dew points in the 60s is certainly supportive enough for severe weather. And you keep this going, we're getting all the way into our Monday morning. Look how this massive warm moist sector really begins to broaden. I mean, it's stretching all the way from Texas all the way into the Mississippi Valley. Okay, southern Indiana, southern Illinois. Everybody into here has tons of moist air to really fuel the severe weather risk. And then we start to get into our Monday afternoon. This is what I'm thinking is going to be a pretty stout, elongated warm front all the way up into here. And I mean, look, guys, you have dew points in the 60s from the Gulf Coast, eastern half of Texas, all the way up into the Ohio Valley. You have this nose. Kind of reminds me of the event, and I'm not comparing it to it, but it kind of reminds me of the event that we saw a couple weeks ago in Ohio that brought all those tornadoes. But this is a stout, very broad, large, warm sector for Monday. And what's wild is, and I'm about to show you this, the Storm Prediction Center almost highlights this entire broad sector for Monday for a slight risk. Already sounding the alarm on this a little bit. Then we get into Tuesday. This moist sector begins to collapse as the northern stream energy begins to kind of influence this, bring a lot more dry, cool air down. And then we have to watch out for Tuesday afternoon. A lot of moist air confined to the northeast, the southern and central apps, even still moist air down here and to the deep south. So got to watch Tuesday also. This is a better way to look at this trough. Okay, dipping the jet, going all the way down here, bringing all this unsettled weather for the western U.S. We keep this going. Now, this is for Sunday afternoon. But you already have this mid-level flow going like this and cruising right over the south central U.S. So what kind of thermodynamics are you going to have in place right, I would say, into here? Are you going to have that low-level moisture in place already with already that mid-level max moving over this region, this mid-level flow, creating lift in the atmosphere, kinematic flow, or not? Okay, now we know as we are getting into our Monday, it's certainly going to be there. And here it is. This thing really becomes strung out. The tilt is really tilting. This is just a classic example of a positively tilted trough. Trough is tilting, southwest. This symbolizes a weaker storm system. But just because it's a weaker storm system, when you have surface lows kind of riding through, bringing a lot of low-level moisture in, and still having this kind of belt of mid-level flow riding into this area, this is going to create a pretty large sector of favorable ingredients for severe weather into this region. With that mid-level max kind of cruising right over what is still very moist air right into this region. Okay, after you get into Tuesday, it gets a little bit weirder, but still, a severe weather threat. And moving into Tuesday, and you can see this other mid-level jet kind of moving in. This is because of an upper trough that's beginning to merge with our southern stream energy. And you still have this weak, positively tilted trough, but you're starting to get a push from the northern stream at this point. But you still got this 70 to 80 knot mid-level jet cruising over the southeastern and eastern U.S. With low-level moisture in place. So we kind of wrap all this up with this. For Sunday, predictability too low. They mentioned Sunday. They say the confidence is not high enough to put a 15% risk up. But we probably are going to have a severe weather threat for Sunday. We get into day 5, or Monday. Okay? First Monday of the month. Huge 15% risk that stretches from Waco, Texas, all the way to Indianapolis. All right, this entire yellow area, that's a pretty big area, guys. So that means there's a slight risk at day 5, 15% risk of severe weather. All right, and then we move to day 6. This is kind of new. Day 6 is for Tuesday, pretty much April 2nd. Severe weather threat moves east. A little bit smaller of an area, Columbus, almost all the way down to Birmingham. All right, severe weather threat for the Tennessee Valley and areas of the Ohio Valley. So we need to figure this one out. We'll continue to fine-tune it. That's all I got, guys. Thank y'all for tuning in. God bless all y'all, and I'll talk to you again soon.